officially live on Facebook. It is the B2B Community Builder Show, Season 5, Episode 177. Today we are talking about the biggest takeaways from PodFest. I am your Chief Executive Connector and host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me today is the man that I choose as my lifelong content creation partner and came with us to PodFest. He's the one that actually studies stuff, takes notes, debriefs, because he's a jet fighter pilot, so he debriefs after every meeting. And I love doing these shows with you, Isar. And this is a special show where we're going to bring other people. But Isar Mates is my business partner. Say what's up, Isar.
Hi, everybody. This is really exciting, right? We spent 3 days learning and drinking with people, mostly drinking, but also learning. And it was absolutely awesome. And we are very excited to share with everyone. And thank everybody for joining. We'll let you share as well. So, all right. Yeah, kick it off, Pablo.
Yeah, let's do it, man. This is a special episode, right? Normally I have a guest and it's a long form interview, but we use people from the crowd. And then on Mondays, right as soon as we're done, I see G-Star in the house. Right on Mondays, when we're done with the show, we roll into what we call our relationship-driven growth strategy sessions. That's like our office hours where people that have taken our boot camp, people that want to ask us about how we pull off these live shows, what our go-to-market strategies are. Everything around relationship-driven growth is the intersection between networking, content creation, strategy, and community creation for business development. So if you want to stick around after the first hour, after everybody gives their advice, we're going to go right into that, open up to Q&A outside of just podcasting. But for right now, we also have another tradition, and it's called the roll call. And I'm super pumped for this roll call because everybody is here checking in. You ready, Isar?
I am ready.
All right, roll call. Let's go. We got Rowan, who's our community manager, account manager, checking in for everybody. We got Jonathan Oakes. He is a Jacksonville trivia influencer. We got Mike Hamm in the house. He is, I think he's about to be the governor of New Jersey, but for right now, he is. Greetings from the Garden State. I got you right here, my man. I got Daniel Wren, my fraternity brother that we reconnected at PodFest from Kentucky. Daniel, welcome. Good to have you. Vincent Pugliese, a guy whose book I have at arm's reach, but I can't reach it right now. Vincent, I was literally just listening to you on a podcast. Super impressive. We got Douglas Orr, the all-American hero from Southeastern Indiana, former factory worker, turned real estate investor. We got DJ Durante, who is a inclusivity activist, DJ. Let me know if that's correct. Let me know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. We got G-Star Gina, who is our Chief Heart Officer. She is the heart of our culture. We got Melissa Hughes, who I've been hearing a lot about from my boy Isar right here, TikTok expert. And we got Ken Carfagno from Philadelphia. Ken and his son Kenny, we became good friends at the Growth Now Summit. Two conferences in a row. We're obviously BFFs now, and let's kick it off, Isar, man. We got the roll call done. We got a lot of people that we're going to bring up to the stage here to be part of this call. So whenever you're ready, Vincent Pugliese is from B-Town, Bradenton, Florida, is what he's saying.
Ooh, Bradenton.
A little spot where the Nick Bollettieri Academy was a place that I used to dream to get to. I don't know if you know what that is. We got Dustin Heiner. He is real estate investing, unemployable person from Phoenix. He's an entrepreneur. Super pumped. I met Dustin. Love his energy. All right, Isar, a little bit different today, man. So I think we got a bunch of people that are going to share their number one takeaways. I'm going to start with you, my friend. You're always so good at really finding a golden nugget somewhere, man. So I would love for you to get us started. We're going to create a community here. Go for it, Isar.
Awesome. So I'm going to start actually with something that is on one hand surprising, on one hand not really, right? Which is the opportunity that still is there in podcasting as a leverage to grow your business. And what do I mean by that? I will start with some statistics that were shared by some of the business industry leaders from Buzzsprout. They obviously run, I don't know how many shows hosted on their platform. So they shared some very interesting statistics. Statistic number one is podcasting listenership in the US has been growing consistently. It peaked in 2021 with 43% of the population overall has listened to at least one podcast in the past month. That's insane. It dropped down a little bit in 2022 so far to 38%, which is still higher than 2020. I think it's just a lot more people working virtually and stuff like that. So there's less commute. And that's my excuse for listening for less podcasts than I did last year. But I think that would be a good representation. But that's almost 1 in every 2 people in the US, ages 12 and up, has been listening to a podcast. That's incredible to me. When you break it down into group ages, it makes it even more interesting. So the people that are actually taking the statistics down is people 55 and up are only listening at 22%. But people that are 34 or lower, which is getting to be a bigger and bigger component of the workforce, are at 50%. So it's actually 1 in every 2. And people 35 to 54, which again is probably most of business leadership in the world today, definitely in the US, is 43% of them listen to a podcast, at least one in the past month. So that's very encouraging for anybody who wants to talk to an audience, that 1 in every 2 people in the US of your target audience is actually listening. The other interesting thing is podcasting used to be a very, 10 years ago, very much a white Caucasian male kind of thing. And now it's literally divided almost exactly, if you cut the pie to who's listening from what ethnicity, to their share in the population. So between, white, Hispanic, Afro-American, Asian, it's more or less the direct correlation to what they are in the population. So again, it doesn't matter which industry you're in, who you're serving, your audience is there listening to podcasts. And I'm going to stop with this, but I'm going to take it to the next level. And so people feel that they have an issue with they're late to the game, right? Everybody's always late to the game. I feel like this about TikTok, and we're going to talk about that a little later on, but you always feel like you're late to the game because, oh my God, there's so many podcasts. Well, something very interesting that I learned from a very personal level. I was running a presentation at the end of the last day. There were about 50, 60 people in the audience. And I asked anybody who already has a podcast to raise their hand. And about 90% of the people raised their hand. So most of the people in that room already had podcasts, coming to learn about how to build communities. That was kind of like the topic. But then I asked them something else. So think about 50 people out of 60 or 50 out of 55 raise their hand, say they have a podcast. Now I asked, how many of you have a system, a process? How many of you are very intentional about every step of what you do in the podcast in order to drive business results? Who are you going to interview? What are you going to talk to them about? What are your content lanes overall? What content you're going to create? Which channels you're going to distribute them on to make it a driver for business? 2 people out of the 50 people that had their hand up stayed with their hand up, meaning less than 10% of the people who have podcasts feel that they actually know what they're doing in leveraging their podcast in order to grow their business, which means from an opportunity perspective, even if there are 1 million podcasts out there, which by the way, is still a tiny number compared to how many websites out there if you're trying to compete on SEO, or how many videos out there are on YouTube if you're trying to compete with video. So it's still a very, very, very small number. But even that number, less than, and that's people who are in business, right? If you take podcasts overall, between other kind of shows, between sports shows and funny shows and storytelling shows, but all the people in that room were people who came there as part of a business conversation. 10% maybe said they know what they're doing in order to drive it into a business. So again, I think there's a huge, huge, huge opportunity. And that's my biggest take out there, that it's still not late to the game. If you know what you're doing, you can stand out and you can leverage your podcast in order to grow your business.
That is why you are the debriefing king, my friend. I appreciate that, man. Great statistics, right? Like Isar is kind of known for this. He takes these like debriefing notes after every single call that we do and follows up with everything. I think that's how they train you to be a jet fighter in Israel. True story. Interesting, man. So that's a really good takeaway of the massive statistics, massive audiences that are out there, the misconception of this idea that we're too late to the game. I think a lot of people feel that, and yet the data out there tells you that people are over-indexing the fact that others are having success and they haven't really figured out how to tie it to revenue. I can tell you that I got in a couple of those conversations while I was there as well. For me, my biggest takeaway, Sar, and it kind of tends to this, right? Like it kind of lends itself to what you're talking about, because I see the opportunity wide open. And by that, it hit me like a ton of bricks that it's been probably about 5 years since I had the feeling that I had at PodFest, since I had the feeling of being in a hallway and just having a revolving door of relationships that I had created come up to me and talk to me. And then 180 seconds next, after that, another relationship would come up and talk to me. Then 180 seconds would pass, another person would come and talk to me. And it was just absolutely magical. And what hit me is that last time that happened to me was in Miami at the heyday of like my influence in Miami. You know, I recently got named top 20 under 40 and all these different things. And I was actively networking rooms in Miami for about 7 years before I reached that level of kind of like connectedness of made guy inside of a room and relationships that I had. Yet in this room, it was 2 years ago that you and I met, and I knew maybe 3 or 4 people because I had gone to 2 podcasting conferences prior to PodFest, right? So I probably knew about 5, 6 people, if I'm going to be honest, right? Like face to face. And since then, 2 years have passed, right? The world hasn't been open. I haven't been able to continue to network face to face and going in rooms. But what I have been doing is strategically using my podcast to network and strategically using my podcast to connect with people and connect people to each other. And now in just 2 years, in an industry that is pretty big, and that was about 1,000 people there, it felt like I knew everybody and everybody knew me. So when I think about the stuff that really moved the needle for me in Miami when I was in my early 30s, and it was this idea of being the person that could just shake hands and introduce you to whomever you need next in a room and walk into anywhere and feel like I was going to know 1 to 3 people in the room. Staying active in this community, being a content creator, being able to be seen on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram every single day by the people that I connected with the 2 years prior, plus the people that I was taking Zoom calls with over that time, and then arrive as a speaker and as somebody that knew like really high level people and was getting connected to the next level up. Man, that was shockingly fast. Like I think I've gotten better at networking. I've gotten good at all that stuff, but it's very clear to me that the wide open opportunity for podcasting, if you don't know how to use it for business, is the networking element and the ability to combine in-person conversations, right? Whether it's on Zoom or whether it is at a conference or at an event or a client that you might have, with social media content, and continue to add people to your network and stay in front of them in a very frictionless manner. I just can't imagine anything more powerful than that. Like that feeling, I still got goosebumps talking about it. And the idea that it happened in just 2 years really freaking blows my mind. So big takeaway.
Nah, amazing. I agree with you 100%. I'll say something, you're way better than me at this, right? At networking and building relationships and connecting with people. And yet I was there and I felt like one of the, the cool boys in the party. So many people, hey, what's up? How are you doing? And again, I was there 2 years ago. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I didn't know what a podcast is. I had 7 episodes, and now like people come to me from all over, like you're saying, from all ranks. Some looking up, some looking down. In like from experience perspective, nobody looked up to me, nobody looked down to me. But from an experience perspective, I'm kind of like in the middle of the pyramid, and so many people know me, and it's incredible. And like you're saying, in these 2 years, I haven't seen face to face the majority of these people. And so I agree with you 100%. It's absolutely amazing what happens and what kind of doors you can open when you just keep on doing this consistently.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. So speaking of that, now we're bringing up somebody to the stage who has been doing this a long time, and he is a well-established voice in a really interesting niche of trivia. All right, Jonathan, what is your, so we met 3 a.m, both nights, last guys at the bar in the hotel.
Well, you kind of chickened out. You 3:30, you're going to bed. I'm still there. I'm paying to be there. I'm going to milk every second out of it.
I love that, man. I love that. So, what was your big takeaway? Did you learn anything in particular, or was there anything that you came to speak on that you would like to share for everybody?
Yeah, I had a couple of takeaways. Your invite made me think about it, actually, which I appreciate. I thought it was wonderful. First, my name is Jonathan Oakes. I host Trivial Warfare. So Trivial Warfare is the largest independent trivia podcast in the world. We've been doing this for 7 years, have 376 episodes out there, make decent money, do a good job. I started a network, create a community for trivia people. So we have thousands of people who found like-minded friends. Lots of the people in my community have created a world for themselves where their best friends are also in my community. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that has been created. I do 5 other shows that are also in the same kind of space. And so just a lot of fun with that, right? I've been going to PodFest and other conferences similar since 2015. That was the first year that I did it. And everything that you guys just described was really, really spot on. I really loved hearing your perspectives, being almost, you're not new to it, but newish to it, and remembering those same feelings. And as you're there for longer and go year after year, you'll find that you have your group, your posse, your people that you just love to spend time with and go do things together. And yet every year you'll meet another 5, 10, 20 people, and 5 of them will become your good friends. And that's such an awesome experience. That's why I keep going back, because I absolutely love it. My takeaways. So I'll give you a couple of the straight kind of businessy or podcast business takeaways.
Yes, please.
And then one of them to me is more personal. So the first one came from a chat with the guy from The Onion. They had one of the creators from The Onion there, which is a satirical newspaper. And the key message from his entire talk, which was very funny, the key message was, if you're going to be outrageous, if you're going to stand out, go to the next level. And you could take that and apply it even more to say, whatever you're doing, whatever you're going to do, go further. If you're going to be brave, be braver. If you're going to be loud, be louder. Don't just be a thing, be that thing to the maximum possible level. So that was a absolutely phenomenal takeaway and a reminder. Like, if I'm going to be a community builder, be the person who builds the best community, the one that stands out, right? Whatever you're doing, always go hard.
That's awesome, man. Absolutely. You know, when I talk about networking and going to events, I kind of say the same thing. It's like, if you're going to show up, right? Like,
right?
Do whatever you're going to do, just hit it hard, man, and go and go for it. Give me another one, Jonathan. Do you have a good, like, businessy one?
I'll give you 2 that are related to each other for me. Okay. So the first one out of these 2 is connect with the people you're having fun with. And Pablo, you gave us as an example of, hey, yeah, we're getting back from wherever we were at 2 a.m, and we would find each other in the hotel lobby and stay there for a little while and talk, right? So you're meeting people at an event like this all the time. And lots of times you're meeting people you don't know, but you kind of have a vibe. You're having fun with them. You're laughing. You're having a good time. Don't let them walk away without doing anything with that, right? And so, Pablo, I found out you were in Jacksonville. You found out I was in Jacksonville, and immediately, like, hold on, let's get each other's numbers. Let's stay in touch. And you drove home kind of, I think, early, a day early or early during the last day, and you reached out and sent me a message. I'm like, hell yeah, that's awesome. Now it's going to be really easy to stay connected with you, and I'm looking forward to the chance to get together with you in Jacksonville, right? So if you're having fun with somebody, do what Pablo did, which is intentionally create the next level connection. Don't just say I had fun and leave it in the past tense, right? And then the next one that goes along with that is make all of the friends, and when the time comes, work with them. So my friend Nick, who started out as a patron of one of my shows, is now one of my best friends. He was down at the conference with me. He's now on my team. In our world, he has stopped paying me. I have started paying him because I like him and I think he does great work. So we're starting a show together. And while we're there, I'm realizing I've got probably 50, 60 good friends here that would be really beneficial for this show that we're going to launch. We're trying to strategize. We're trying to target women for investment advice, not necessarily advice, but retirement, how to retire, right? That's the concept of the show. His wife's one of the best financial planners in the country, top rated on Forbes. And so we're starting a show with this, and we're focusing on women. So this is going to be a show about women, by women, for women, right? Well, guess what? I'm friends with a lot of awesome women in the podcasting community. And if we want to have her guest on people's shows, I already know who to get with. And so the reason I can make that happen is that we're already friends. So you have to make the friends first, right? You have to get your connection, make that next level connection, and then they're there for you whenever it is you need them. Not because you did it to connect with it, not because you did it to use them, but because now you're already friends. And it's so easy just to say, hey, I'm doing this thing. Can you help? So those were the businessy sides. Love those, right? Love those.
Yeah. That's Jonathan, I appreciate that so much, man. That is spot on. That's absolutely right in the wheelhouse of everything that we preach here for sure, man. I really appreciate you sharing that. Great connecting with you. Thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate you. We'll see each other here in Jacksonville. Isar, you want to introduce our next guest?
Yeah, absolutely. So next going to be Melissa, and I'm going to say Melissa Hughes. So I haven't been to too many sessions. Mostly I just enjoyed meeting people and talking to them, but I've been to a few sessions. One of them was about TikTok. And I'll give you, again, a little bit of statistics about TikTok and how it relates to what's going on in the world right now. So right now, if you look at ages of users, people 12 to 34, the leading social media platform has nothing to do with podcasting, just leading platform in the world. 72% of people that age use Instagram, 61% use TikTok, only 58% use Facebook. People 35 to 54, which again, if you're in business, that's probably your biggest bracket. 34% of them use TikTok, 45% use Instagram. So Instagram is still leading and Facebook is even ahead of that. But the really interesting part of the statistics is what happened between 2020 and 2022 on all social platforms. And what happened was Facebook lost people in the younger age, stayed more or less leveled on the middle bracket, so 35 to 54, and gained a little bit on the 55 and up. Instagram stayed kind of leveled, gained single-digit numbers. TikTok gained 36% of the population ages 12 to 34, 29% at the ages 35 to 54, and even 11% on 55 plus. So what that means, so, okay, this is statistics, blah, 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 numbers, who cares? Who cares is people think TikTok, in a lot of people's minds, myself included until a few months ago, it's like my teenage daughter dancing on TikTok. That's what TikTok is in my head, right? It's my daughter, 14-year-old, doing stupid dances. The reality is it's across the board, growing like crazy on every channel, on every topic, and it's growing insanely fast when other stuff isn't. And really the presentation that kind of hit me in the head really hard on like, holy crap, you got to do this, was Melissa's. So Melissa, I would like you to do two things. I would like to, first of all, in like a couple of minutes, to say why TikTok is a great platform to distribute quote unquote business content. And the second is what you learned in the conference that's not necessarily related to TikTok.
Awesome. That you nailed all the best points there as far as statistics and everything like that. But the biggest takeaway, I would say, for podcasters, you're already sitting on so much content, especially if you have video content, you could so easily repurpose to TikTok. But the main reason why TikTok is different from all the other platforms is, number one, it did become a social media disruptor in 2020, and Instagram and Facebook were sitting pretty where they were. TikTok boomed and nobody was prepared for it. And now every single platform right now, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, is actually competing with TikTok. So that has to say something about like where you should be, first of all, creating your content and then driving traffic to all your other social media sites and to your podcast. Because TikTok has this feature, it's called the For You page, where the home page acts like a discovery page. Whereas every other platform, your home page is people that you follow. So you could be putting out amazing content, great content, but it's just going to be seen by people that you follow. But with TikTok, you put out new content and it doesn't matter how many followers you have. If the content is good, it's going to go out. And so the opportunity to go viral, the opportunity to be seen, the opportunity to get new listeners is amazing on TikTok. And that is why people love it. And that's why it's an incredible marketing tool for businesses.
Amazing. And when I said it slapped me in the face. That's what slapped me in the face, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, so that's the difference, right? The difference is that it's not just 6% of the people that are actually connected with you get to see it because that's what the algorithm will allow.
Yeah.
But actually the world can see your content. And if it's good, then the world will see your content.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
awesome. What's your biggest take from being at PodFest? Like, what's like your aha moment that you've learned from being at the conference?
I think probably for me personally, like I grew my TikTok account in my car on my lunch break to 220,000 followers. So that just alone should show you how simple it can be. But I think for me personally, like I've really struggled trying to figure out my ultimate goal with my audience. And I was trying to sell to people, but I had this kind of aha moment that you should really make content for your peers. So people that can relate to you, so that you have the opportunity to create a community that you can then sell to people. And so that was just like a moment for me that I was like, oh, I really need to kind of transition my content a little bit more to relate more to my peers rather than just like selling to people. So
that's a really, really important take. Like that's what we preach. We preach community is the ultimate strategy, right? If you build a community of people who care about the stuff that you do and you have shared goals, share interests, and share ideas, now it's very easy to turn this into a growth engine for your business because now you have a lot of people who feel a part of the process. It's not just that they see my content and they like the thing. They feel a part of the process because they're a part of a community and you brought them in and you're engaging and communicating with them in that way. So absolutely, you're on the right path.
thank you.
Amazing.
So, thank you so much, Melissa. I can't wait to connect with you after all this stuff. We're super curious about TikTok, so we're gonna work with you at some point.
Awesome. I'll put my information in the chat.
Love that. Love that. Thanks for coming. All right. Up next is my fraternity brother who I had not seen since college. We reconnected at PodFest. He is a financial advisor that has a podcast about finance for physicians. Daniel, welcome to the show, man. What was your biggest takeaway, bud?
What's up? I going into it, I knew pretty much nothing about podcasting other than I have done mine for a while, kind of in my hole here. And, so my goal was to kind of get out and actually learn what I was doing. So I have like a really long list of stuff, but I think the biggest takeaway for me, well, first of all, the people were awesome. I was shocked at every person I talked to. There's just a lot of good people at this conference. So that's always a really good starting point. I think a couple takeaways. Number one was it's really important to get on other people's podcasts. That was kind of not on my radar. I think actually a conversation with, I think Dustin's in here and Rocky, we were talking and they're like, dude, get on other people's podcasts. And I'm like, it was just not on my radar. And I'm like, I just met like 1 million people that have podcasts. So, I got lots of ideas for that. So that was a really good one. And then Ina had a talk on small audiences. So I'm like, I have a small audience too. So I think I was pretty excited about being able to be productive with, or really like lean in and engage with the small audience. So I had a lot of ideas for how to start to better engage and not just do the podcast and shut her down.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on and sharing. I completely agree, right? Like that was my big unlock is I started going to podcasting conferences before I started podcasting for precisely that. How can I make a couple calls and go on the morning radio show tour? And really quickly, you'll notice that now that you've connected with podcasters, it mushrooms out, man. So pumped that you came. Thanks for being on the show, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Up next, a man who pulled the ultimate power move on me. He handed me his book as a business card. I so admire that move. He's got a mastermind. He's written his second book now, The Wealth of Connections, somebody that deeply cares about networking, building your network and building businesses through relationships. Vincent Pugliese, man, so pumped we got to meet at PodFest. And give us your biggest takeaway, man.
What's going on, guys? Such a great conversation with you. We talked for probably an hour outside and I'm like, that was, okay, for takeaways, I have a strategy, if you want to call it that, when I go to conferences. And I think it's different than a lot. I want to make 3 great connections and I want to have one incredibly solid, deep conversation. That's my goal. So you won't see me at very many seminars. I didn't even download the app because my whole thing is like, everybody else is looking at the app. So let me outsource that. Let them figure out where it is. And then they'll tell me, oh, this is a good one. If I feel like it, I'll go. But for the most part, Pablo, it's hallway. So when I come into it with like 3 great conversations and these connections, it allows me to spend more time. I think when a lot of people want to meet everybody and they're frantic and they want to go here, we can go speak for 2 hours. We can go, it doesn't matter because I just want to have more of these long conversations. So that's a big thing. So with that, you wind up having 15 deep conversations from it. And you have these connections that go way further than, hey, what's your name? Let me get your business card. What's your podcast? Hey, maybe you should be on. And then we leave and go to the next thing. I want to go along with that. So the second part going to that was the whole deep conversations. I look around here, Melissa, we had, right before I left, we were having lunch. We weren't even having lunch together. She was at a different table, sat down there. We had an amazing conversation for probably an hour. So I could walk on here, Dustin. And so you become friends from that. It's not, shotgun, let me get to know everybody. Because my third takeaway, and it's not directly from this one, but it's a conference thing, which is when you can find a nucleus of people, think about when you go to a conference for the first time. You walk in and you don't know anybody. And you look around the hallway, so you go to a seminar, then you go to another one. When you can find a nucleus of people, 3, 5, 7 people that are all connected, you can get in there, it brings other people around. So my friend Jamie Slingling did this for me at Podcast Movement in 2016. He knew so many people. So he said, come on in. And by coming on in, I met Nick Loper. I met all these people that I never would have went up to one-on-one, but because it was in this nucleus, it attracted these other people. And then I got to meet them, and all of a sudden my network grew. So every year I go, it goes bigger and bigger and bigger. So then, hey, we had a great conversation. Now let's go do that. That was I might have went to 3 sessions the entire time I was there. So just so you know.
Dude, we're twins, right? Like we have the same exact approach, right? Like I never go to conferences. I'm sorry, I go to conferences. I don't go to sessions because I outsource it. Also, like you, I focus on going really deep with as like 1 to 3 people as much as I can.
Yep.
And I focus on getting 5 friends the first night. Because as long as you're walking around squatted, you're good. And those folks, that may not have the same superpower that you and I have, feel really great about the idea of just like roaming around in a pack. So you're adding a ton of value to people, man. I love that. Really, really good practical takeaways. I appreciate it, bro.
I'll add 2 things to that. One, first of all, if one of you that is listening either right now in the thing or you're listening this to the podcast afterwards, you need a Vincent or a Pablo in your life when you walk into conferences. So being a wingman for somebody like that, and I'm saying that as Pablo's wingman, is freaking incredible because you walk in the hall and in 30 seconds, you have 10 new friends that you can hang out with in the next 3 days of the show, and they will introduce you to more people. And now you have your squad instead of kind of like roaming alone. So that's one very big take. If you're not that kind of guy, find somebody who's that kind of guy and go to the conference with them. The other take from this is, I think in general in life, I'm going to generalize what both of you said, Vincent and Pablo, is it's more about quality than about quantity. Right? If you can find the 3, 4, 5 people in 3.5 days, right? There's enough time to find the 3 people that you really want to go deep with. It can change your life, literally.
It will.
Like Pablo and I are business partners because we met at PodFest 2 years ago. That was the seed to everything that we're doing right now. So it changed my life, literally. So going deep, preferring the quality over quantity is a life-changing experience versus, I got to meet 130 great people. Okay, and then what? So this is an amazing tip that I think is way broader than just podcasting and conferences. So thank you.
And to finish, you will wind up getting more because when you do that, there's time. If you have a couple of dud long conversations, so be it. I've built the time for it. The one of the things I want to say before I'll let go is it's a giving thing. Be a connector. Be the one that when you're in a conversation, you see somebody walking by, say, hey, Dave, come over here. This is Melissa. You guys got to meet. You will lift everybody up by doing that, and you just bring more people in and you help them out. So if you can do that, you're going to be well liked throughout.
Thank you for showing up, my brother. Really good connecting with you, man. I'm pumped for the future of our relationship. To bring this back to podcasting, this is actually a play that Isar and I have run for clients. And it's that when you have a podcast and you know you're going to a conference and there may be a couple of keynote speakers or people that are going to be vendors at the event, you can reach out ahead of time, have them on your podcast, and then let them know, hey, I just reached out to like 3 or 4 of other people that are going to be on my podcast. You can pre-record it, not even release it before the show, and say, we're all going to meet for drinks the night before at this place, right? And boom, you're walking in squatted. You've made power connections. You can pair this with a podcast strategy to, again, accelerate the network. That was awesome, Vincent. Thank you so much. Up next is a guy that I met the last night of PodFest that I was there on Friday night because I left Saturday morning. We met in the hotel lobby, immediately had an amazing conversation. Somebody that is just highlighting what I love about America, which is the American dream is alive and well. And he's highlighting stories of folks that have figured out a way to just cut the cord from employment, change their futures forever. Dustin Heiner, super pumped to have you here, man. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Pablo. I really appreciate having me on it. It was fantastic getting to know you and Isar at at PodFest. It was just so much fun. So I'll definitely jump right into the 3 takeaways that I want to give to everybody. I'll go over them. I'll say them all 3 so don't forget. But then I'll jump into more. So the first one is play the long game. Play the long game. It's going to be a long time before something gets paid off. Delayed gratification. I love that. Introduce yourself and ask questions in any group that you're going to be a part of. Like that, you just need to make yourself get out of that shell. It's easy for me. I'm extrovert, so it's easy, but I get it. But we need to do that. The next one, or the last one, is to connect other people because you've already asked questions to them and you know what they are looking for, what could help them, and then connect them with another person that you asked questions to. So let me quickly go through each one. Play the long game. So when I was at PodFest, I actually had a really amazing conversation with a lady that I met in 2018, another conference called FinCon, or Financial Bloggers Conference. Met her in 2018 and just became friends for a long time. And she gave me like almost 2 hours of her time. I have a conference called the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. I teach real estate. And I was looking at doing something else with the military, helping the military out. She's in the military. She has a military conference. Fast forward now, because I played the long game with her, she gave me literally 2 hours at a conference, and she's supposed to be preparing her notes and all that stuff for her talk. But she walked me through so many great things. It was absolutely amazing. But this is just one scenario of many things when I play the long game and when you play the long game of other people. Like, it's not right when you meet somebody, what can I get out of this person right away? That's the horrible way to look at it. In fact, when somebody feels like that to me, I turn around like, okay, I'll see you later. And I start walking away because I just know there are takers. I'm old enough now, and I've had plenty of conversations, plenty of relationships that I don't work with people like that. I just don't. I work with people who are givers. So that's the first one. Play the long game. It might take 2-3 years before you actually get something out of whatever relationship, but giving is always something you want to do. The second thing was to introduce yourself. Like, if you see a group of people and you're really shy, I'm extrovert. Sometimes I get shy. I'm like, man, I don't really want to go up and say anything to them. But at the same time, if there's a group of people, you have no idea who is connected, who is like by themselves. They're like, oh, I don't know why I'm here. If you just go up and say, like Daniel, so he was, there was a group and Daniel was standing there. I thought he might know everybody. It didn't seem like he did it seemed like he did until after I talked to him. He didn't really know everybody. So I said, hey, Daniel, my name's Dustin. What do you do? And I started asking questions about his business. Turns out we have a mutual friend. He bought the business from them. Long story short, ask questions because nobody really likes to constantly hear somebody else talk about themselves. In fact, most of us like to talk about ourselves. And I just read Vincent Puglisi's book, The Wealth of Connection, on the way flight back. Amazing book. You have to get it. It's all about, like, he and I see eye to eye on how we can build ourselves up by building other people up. So you want to ask questions, figure out what they want, what they need, what they do. And then as you're meeting more and more people, this leads into the third thing. Well, the second thing, when you're doing that, they're going to get interested in you because you don't come across as a taker because you're interested in them. Then they're going to reciprocate. It usually always does reciprocate, ask you what you do. So that's how you get in there. The last thing is connect other people. I've been looked at so much more highly because by many other people by me saying, hey, you do this, this person does this, let me connect you guys together. Vincent does this as well. But you connect them together, you bring value to both people, and then you're looked at as like, oh man, you cared so much that you remembered me, number one, and you brought somebody else that's going to help me out. It's great. And so that's what happened at PodFest. There was two ladies, found out they were like perfect for each other. I said, hey, they're across the room, let's go over there. And I drug her all the way over and connected them. They were so happy. So those are my three big takeaways.
That was awesome, brother. Thanks for doing that. So to tie, number one, weird. I was literally just listening to your interview of Vincent on your show right before this show. So it's amazing to see you guys on here. But to tying everything you said back to podcasting, one, approaching with value. If you have a podcast, everybody you meet, you have something to approach them with value with, and it is the opportunity to come on your show. Two, asking questions. The more podcasts you do, the better you get at asking questions. And three, as far as being a connector, the easiest way to introduce somebody is to say, I am dying for you to meet Dustin Heiner. Check out his interview on my podcast. Here you go. He's genius. And you made him look real good. It kind of like ties it all together. And that's one of the things I love about podcasting, man. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
All right, brother. I'll see you soon, man.
See you guys.
Speaking of a connector, here's a guy that I met at the week prior at another conference. And in between the Growth Now Summit and PodFest, he had introduced me to like 2-3 people, just all on the way there. I met multiple people at PodFest. I was like, oh my God, yeah, I'm Ken's roommate. He's been talking about you that I got to meet you. Like super, super connector. Not to mention an incredible dad, really, really big fan of his son and his outlook on how he's homeschooling and raising his kids. Ken Carfagno, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you so much, Pablo. It's amazing. That was like 9 days ago. And now we're BFFs, as you said.
Legit.
Yeah, I mean, you're such an amazing connector. I mean, you leave, then I get a video text coming in from you. I'm like, man, why didn't I think to send him a video text? It's just the things you think of to be generous and to serve others is next level. And it's why you attract so many people. You're magnetic. So yeah. All right. So I got a couple. Hopefully when I say I'll be brief, I will be brief. I had 4, but I just added a 5th takeaway. And I'm going to move that one to slot number 1. Dustin's t-shirt is a new takeaway. Successfully unemployed is incredible. I love the shirt. Number 2, this is my emotional takeaway. Pablo's emotional rendition of Total Eclipse of the Heart. A tear was shed just in the one eye. The other eye remained perfectly calm. But that was, guys, if you didn't see that, go find it. That was incredible. That's good stuff. I mean, you could show up for the conference, see that, and you could go home. I mean, that was good right there. And then I got one on tech. I'll do the tech one first for the nerds. This was from Rob Walsh, I believe. He did the Libsyn like Stat Master. Him and Isar are probably best buds too. But there's this one thing I was like, oh my gosh, really? Apple cuts out, like, they don't like artwork if there's text below on the bottom 15% of your cover art. And I saw this and he's like, these are good, these are not. And you will not get as recommended if your podcast art has text on the bottom 15%. I shared that with a few people, including like Nick Loper. And he's like, oh, and we pulled out our phones. We're looking at our cover art on the spot. Whoa. So that, like, just a quick tech one. And then I got one on social. So our common friend, Mr. Justin Schenk, Pablo, he did an amazing session on building a community. And he talked about this in his session, but I also was hitting him up privately in the hallway at HallCon. And I just love what he said. He's like, yeah, I did this talk and I had 20 new people follow me on Instagram. I'm like, okay, so what'd you do next? He said, well, I sent each one of them a personal direct message voice memo, thanking them. Hey, man, thanks so much or lady, for following the show. Really appreciate you. You know, I saw that he'll like look at their feed and say, hey, we have a common school or a common friend. He'll find a point of connection. Hey, what do you like about the show? And boom. And he said he did that for 20 new followers in less than 15 minutes. I'm like, wow, I am not using Instagram or this kind of wealth and connection mindset good enough. So my social, I felt like just not good. I got to get better. And then my last one is community. And thank you for the shout out to my son. It was so much fun to bring him with me. So we have 5 kids, not hanging on the edge of the Grand Canyon, but we do a 5. Our oldest is my podcast editor, and he was absolutely floored. He has a few other customers, a few other podcasters he works for. And his takeaway on the airplane home, he's like, I came here all by myself, just editing a few shows, not knowing what this could be. And I'm coming home and I'm now part of a community. They didn't think any more or less of me because I'm 17. Guys like Steve Stewart were incredible that really made him fit in. And he saw the potential outlook of a career in podcast editing, as he moves toward his dream of buying his first property and going to real estate. So the community aspect, and I've been to podcasting movement like 3 times, and this is my first PodFest. And overall, without saying one is better or they're both excellent in their own way. And I personally have a preference for this one because of all the things I've heard on this call, that just more intimate relational dynamic of this, where podcast movement, you're walking around hallways, I might see Pablo once in 4 days. It's just that big. Here, I saw you everywhere, literally everywhere. I'm like, there he is again. There he is again.
There's 5 of him, by the way. We found a way to replicate him because it's.
I do not doubt that. So those are my 5 takeaways. Thanks so much for inviting me on too. I appreciate that.
I'll say something, Ken, about the last thing you said as far as the community, because I felt that very much, right? I came to PodFest 2 years ago for the first time. I didn't have a clue. I didn't know anybody. And what felt the strongest feeling about it, forget about the stuff I learned, was the sense of I have a new family that I feel that I belong to and I want to continue to belong to. And if you can create that magic around you, around your business, around a topic you're passionate about, it's freaking magical.
Love that. And yeah, Cam, a couple of things that you said, that idea of, as content creators, we forget that really what creates a connection is collisions, right? So like the moment somebody follows you, send them a video or a voice text, right? The moment that you connect with somebody and you get their text, the next day or even later that day, send them a voice note saying that you like them, that you want to be friends, right? Like send them a video saying what you liked about your conversation. It really, really helps. That's something I learned early on, man. So I'm really, really glad you called that one out, man. I appreciate you being here, buddy.
I'll add another one to this as a little tip, because we're already talking about the topic. When I introduce people, so not in a conference, right? But when I introduce people, and I love doing this, like, oh my God, you should meet so-and-so. What I always do is I create a group chat. So you can do this on WhatsApp. You can do this on LinkedIn. I don't know if you know that, but you can create a group chat on LinkedIn and a recorded introduction video. And it takes me actually faster than it will probably take me to record the message. But it's always like, hey, Ken, I would like to meet Pablo. Pablo is a great super connector. He's a really smart guy. He has a podcast. He does this, that. Pablo, meet Ken. Ken is this great guy. I actually hype both of them to each other and explain why I connected them. And I'm like, you can take it from here. I'm sure you'll have an amazing conversation. And everybody's like, oh my God, this video was so awesome. Like, people don't get it. It's actually easier to create a video than to write a long introduction. And people absolutely love it. So doing whatever follow-up or whatever engagement with people through video is actually an amazing tool, because people want to do this. People want to connect. And that's the next best thing, right? Is doing this an offline introduction, but through video.
Awesome. Ken, thanks for coming, buddy. All right. Up next is a man with a great voice, a great beard, great hat, and a phenomenal podcasting strategy that if he doesn't share it, I'm going to share it right after he's done. Come up here, Mike Ham.
What's up, Pablo? Love that hat, bro. I mean, so I spent my entire weekend wearing my United States versus Bruce Springsteen hat. So that's, not my podcast, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But that was like my big calling card. Like, oh, what's that? What's that? What's that? But if Pablo Gonzalez invites you on his show, you wear his hat. So was blessed, #blessed enough to get the content hat. I was just like, yo, I love that hat, bro. And he was like, I'll give you one. Boom. So now here I am wearing the content hat. Love it. I'm sure that I look really good in it. Yeah, really, really appreciate that. The free hat. And I gave you a sticker. So I feel like one was probably worth a little bit less than the other because those stickers are really expensive, but really pumped to be here. Yeah. So takeaway. So, other people have said this, and I think that it's really important. Like there was a lot of great sessions, sat in on a bunch of them, but honestly, like my big takeaways have been the conversations that I had like we said, I think Ken said, HallCon, like the lunches that I had, the drinks that I had, as long as it was like early in the night and not too late in the night. But the early in the night drinks, I mean, just like chatting with people. My show, just quick plug, is all about New Jersey. So I travel around to local businesses, nonprofits, other people that live here that are doing cool things. I don't know how many people were at PodFest. There is literally no other person at PodFest that's doing the kind of show that I'm doing, right? There could be like a bunch of marketing podcasts, these kind of podcasts. But the cool thing about it is if you talk to the people that have been on this this live stream so far, and the people that I know that I either knew prior to that, this is my first ever podcasting conference ever, but most of the people that I met virtually. So the people that I knew then, they all have different shows than me, but you start talking to them and start brainstorming different things about what I could take from their show. Not like obviously like content specific things, but the way that they're promoting it, the way that they're approaching their communities, the way that they're building communities, the way that I can take my content and kind of tailor it almost to their show and be like, yo, this is what I do. This is kind of how I do it. Maybe it can work for you. And I think that that's where for me, the magic happened. And I think the other big thing for me too, is the fact that like, I'm a big believer in showing up as 100% of yourself as you possibly can all the time. And not every day that 100% is going to look the same. You might be 75% of yourself that day. You might be 25% of yourself that day. After the first Oh Shucks night, I was probably at like 10% of myself. But right before like the speed networking thing that one night, I mean, like I had planned on going back up to my room and taking a little break because Mike was running out of gas. And I was like, I went up there and I instantly felt guilty because of how fast I was vibrating from all the different conversations that I've had over the course of the previous 2 days. And I'm like, bro, you got to get back down there. You got to suck it up. You got to get down there and you got to start meeting more people. And I did. And then it was just amazing. Made it through the rest of the night. The rest of the next day, it was awesome. So for me, it was more of just like, it doesn't matter even like where you're sitting, sit in the lobby. Like when we were joking about it that next day after the first Oh Shucks night, we were literally standing in the hall. Me, Pablo, Isar was there. I think Eric was there, a bunch of other people. And we just started like accumulating more and more people. And all of a sudden we were just like taking up the entire hallway. And like, to me, that is the coolest thing because we all kind of are rowing our boats in the same direction, but we're not racing. We're all just trying to get ourselves to the end of the river. You know what I mean? And I think that was really cool. And those are my big takeaways. There's not like maybe specific things, you know, like, ooh, like I'm going to, you know, boost my SEO on the greetingsfromthegardenstate.com shallow plug website. But I can do different things to kind of get us to the end and like work with other people to get everyone kind of moving in the same direction because we're all trying to do the same kinds of things.
Mike, I want to pick your brain a little bit, man. One of the big things I took from you was you used to have this like industry interview, non-specific kind of podcast. And as soon as you went really local and really niche, you started seeing results immediately, man. I would love to, and that's got me wanting to start the Jacksonville podcast, right? So like, tell me about the tangible benefits of going local, niche down podcast and how you're feeling and how you're approaching it.
Yeah, I mean, so Pablo's been on it, and my original show, The Morning Spotlight, there's another plug for that one, even though it's basically dead. But that show was successful and served its purpose at the time. So I started that show for my actual job, my 9-to-5 job of getting out there and interacting with people, networking, doing different things like that. Eventually, I got kind of burned out by that show because it was like basically taking my actual job and extending it into my fun hours of podcasting, if that makes sense. But I fell in love with the medium of podcasting, and I wanted to do something that I was passionate about. So I was born and raised in Jersey, and I was like, hey, why not take these people that have these unbelievable stories that are not always asked to be on podcasts? So you can go, I mean, everyone here, I'm not going to name names, but everyone here knows the big podcasts that get all those big name guests in podcasting. Like, oh, I got XYZ person. They're like, oh yeah, you know, like we're sick of hearing that you had that person on your show, but everyone's chasing that big guest. But so I live in a place, and Jacksonville, I'm sure, is a very similar type of place. New Jersey, most densely populated state in the country, but also one of the most diverse populations in the country. So I can go to a lot of different kinds of businesses and get these unbelievable stories that are not being heard. And to me, and I didn't even realize it was going to kind of get the kind of legs that it did out of the gate, but I think it was something where I just kind of went for it. and then was blown away with, on my end, the stories that I was getting, and then also the feedback that I was getting from my community. And it's an easy way to build a community because it's literally a community. You don't have to create one. It literally exists. If you live in New Jersey, you're part of my community. And I think that that was a really cool thing. And, you know, I think it's a super untapped, and not just you, Pablo, but other people. Ken was just on here. We were talking about it. Amber, who we both know, we were talking about it. And then other people were just like, yo, I love that idea. Is that something that you could help me with? And it was like, yeah, of course, you know, because it's an untapped thing where everyone's trying to like chase that huge podcast, that huge guest. The niche down thing is a little bit, you know, scary, even though you want to be niche down, but like in marketing or whatever, social media marketing, let's take that as an example, but just niche down to your people. Like, this is where I live. This is where I'm from. This is the people that made me who I am today. And we just vibe. We have totally different stories, but we vibe together. And that's what I think makes it so successful.
Yeah, cool, man. In the ongoing theme of like people wanting community and this idea that we need to add more collisions to our content, I think having the local podcast, your ability to go from podcast to live events and people that you know getting together, I think is a genius thing, man. So I think that's really, really cool. Thanks for sharing that, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me.
Up next, the one person that I didn't meet at PodFest apparently, but because we threw up this bat signal, because we threw up this community event and crowdsourcing lessons learned, crowdsourcing context, all the different things that we like to do here through the relationship flywheel. I got a connection request from DJ. I invited her onto the show. She's here. DJ, I would love to, introduce yourself and give us the biggest takeaway, please.
Hello, what's up? Welcome. Well, thank you for welcoming me. And I'm sorry I didn't get to meet any of y'all. PodFest was really exciting. It was full of personalities and like sub sessions, like sessions within sessions. It was just so intense. So I was part of the speakers on Saturday afternoon with diversity and inclusion track, the accessibility. I spoke on accessibility, and that was part of what I wanted to share.
Please.
But I really did learn a lot, and I met a lot of wonderful people, and I feel like I spent most of my time socializing with my fellow live streamers that I already knew virtually. So I felt like I was going there more to socialize and to really like learn. But there was just so much, and I do have a few takeaways to share. So I'll share some.
By all means.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, everyone's got to have a book, so I'm gonna have to go write a book at some point, right? I mean, who doesn't have a book? I don't. Who doesn't have? Okay, I'm gonna write a book. So that's something. I'm gonna upgrade my mic. I got one of these Shure stickers. I seen the Shure mic over here. Which
all you gotta do is put the Shure sticker on your mic, and then everybody thought you've upgraded. So that solves your problem.
Yeah,
it's way cheaper than actually buying the real thing.
Well, I saw the mini ones. I stopped by the exhibition hall. So many amazing, like different podcasting softwares and platforms, and just got to talk and learn more about like the tech stuff, which I love, and I can geek out a little bit on that, even though I'm a newbie. So I thought that was great, like just talking about tech with other creators, and just so many takeaways. Most of my time was spent with the Video Expo and learning about Amazon Live, because I know a group of them. So I was kind of tucked away with that group. So
that's awesome, DJ. I got a quick question. I got two questions for you. One,
sure.
What is upgrading microphones, right? Like I've kind of always poo-pooed the whole like tech idea. Like I'm very much into this idea of get the storytelling right, get the show to work, and then you upgrade tech and you do all those things. What's driving you to want to upgrade the tech? What benefit do you get from it?
Easy question. I got this because I went down and I talked to Focusrite, and there were a few other ones, but don't we all have some sort of insecurities about our voice in some way? So for me, it's like the loud, when I get really loud and excited, and then I start laughing and I just watch those spikes, and it just, gets me a little insecure, like, oh, my voice sounding too high pitched. Am I breaking screens or, speakers anywhere? So I think for me, that was really what drives that conversation, is finding a mic that's going to make my voice have that really studio quality sound. I think it's called mastering. I'm learning.
Cool. All right. So confidence. That's interesting. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And last is, you're a live streaming expert. What is the number one thing that you need to think about when you are live streaming versus having a podcast that you're just recording on the side?
Oh, good one. Well, just self-plug. I'm going to go live here in about 30 minutes, 6:30 Eastern time. My show's called Let Your Mayhem Be Known, and I talk about mental health, disability, and trauma. Love to share stories. And I got Enrique going to be my guest tonight, and he was at PodFest, so we're going to be talking about PodFest. Got one of these free 99 shirts they had. So, but yeah, for live streaming, I love the engagement. I love the real-time community that we were talking about earlier. Just having that on the spot, inclusive, everyone come join the conversation. If it's a conversation that you want to know more about, you want to maybe meet people that are comfortable talking about that topic, and it really kind of drives that space for safety for some and hopefully advocacy for others. And just one other quick thing was back to the accessibility. That's what I spoke about. And I always want to encourage any content creators to know their software, know their platforms, and make their content as most accessible as possible to be as inclusive. There is no inclusivity without accessibility, and that's everybody's job.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Thank you, DJ.
Yeah,
Thanks for doing that work with accessibility, right? Like, I was on the board of Miami Lighthouse for the Blind not too long ago, and I recognize all that stuff is really, really important for those that, if you don't have it, it's, like, it's easy to dismiss it, but like,
Gotta be thinking about it in the process from the beginning, not at the end, not when someone's knocking on your door. There might be some sort of, unexpected visitor.
Love that, DJ. Make sure that you give Rowan your info so that we can tag you on our show notes, and feel free to stick around for the strategy session after. For right now, I'm going to go to Doug. Thanks. Really nice meeting you. I look forward to getting to know you some more. All right. And now the guy that I like to call the American Dream.
Dougie!
Just 7-8 years ago. I don't know exactly how many years ago, but I'm pretty sure it was within the lifespan of my marriage. This guy was a factory line worker at a Honda factory, and now he's got like 120 doors under management. He owns a real estate brokerage. He's investing in public storage, not REITs, but syndications. He's like a true investor that has pulled himself up from middle of nowhere, Indiana, and has become a really close friend of mine and a big inspiration to me. Doug, and my roommates at PodFest. Doug, welcome to the show, bro.
So my best takeaway was this thing. Pablo comes to me and he brings me this gift. You want to talk about coming in a squad? There was half a dozen of us with the same jackets. We all had, that's my handle. I don't have a podcast actually, so I'm probably the anomaly in the room right now, which I was for PodFest, felt like. But amazing. If you wanted to see somebody, hey, there's Kingmaker over there. There's one of us. So that's magical. And I'm going to wear this around and people are going to know who I am everywhere. You alluded to my transformation. 2019 is when we originally met. And that was because I come from a very small town where I knew if I wanted to get to where I was going, I had to get outside of my little bubble and see that the world is a much bigger place. And I did that with conferences. So first takeaway is actually show up, go to conferences, stay up late. Like, everybody's tired. So don't give yourself the excuse of, I'm just going to go to bed. Do the extra work, try, because that's where the real magic happens. Memories are made. You really get to know people and dive deep. Businesses are formed. That's such a magical time. Next one I would say is be authentic, because there's no ego when it comes to me, right? I mean, cool story, but nobody's better, nobody's worse. There's always, why do we buy the $20 book when you're at the top of the food chain? Because there could be $1 million idea in there that totally changes your life. Same way with every person you meet. Get to know them, get to know what they're about. There could be one nugget, that could be one friendship that catapults you to the next level. And somebody alluded to this already, but leave everybody with the impression of increase. Give more than you take. Always be willing to serve. That's where the real value is. And if everybody hates salesmen, everybody wants to buy, nobody wants to be sold. That's what I was looking for. I apologize. But again, going back to the podcast thing, I have decided to start a podcast as my little fumble there. I need a little cognitive bias. And so I went to PodFest, and that is what we're going to do, guys. So I really appreciate you having me on, and I apologize for my little hiccup there, but you guys are amazing. I love you guys. Look forward to meeting you live in the next event.
Love you, buddy, man. That's so cool that you started one. And I love what you just referred to here at the end, but you just said it. You needed a little cognitive bias, right? And I talk about it. That's the accurate term, right? Of basically, you got to see it to believe it. And, you know, I think that you and I on that conference circus, when we met in 2019, I had just come from, actually the last one was Funnel Hacking Live. And I didn't really believe that I could have a online business or a geography like independent business until I started going to these conferences, until I started seeing other people like me that were, or, you know, like me, and, or I would even say less talented than me in my own like egotistical eyes, having this lifestyle and doing these things, right? So if you wanna, if you wanna, you know, get into something that you don't think is possible, the easiest thing is to go see somebody else doing it, right? Like if you see somebody doing it, man, that makes it very, very real. And I love that you said that, man. And I really love that you're going to start a podcast, buddy. I'm the #1 guy that's going to subscribe to that. I think you got big things coming, man. Appreciate you, man. All right, Mark Henteman, we got you on, man. Is there anything that you want to share before we just go into the strategy session?
Yeah, I'll be quick because most of it has already been said, but Pablo, thank you for reaching out to me at the event and after the event. So great to meet you. You know, all the education stuff was amazing. I feel like, you know, I didn't have a big enough brain to collect all those ideas. I gotta get some videos to rewatch everything. But, you know, more than anything else, the community, the generosity of everyone there, the relationships that I formed, the energy of the whole event was amazing. And, you know, finally, like what I love meeting people who are going for it. And, you know, I think everyone there was going for it, and it's fun and it's exciting to be around those kind of people. I felt like I walked into it. Eric Cabral had said, you know, you want to get up on stage? I had never given a speech in my life. And I was terrified, and I practiced that thing so many times, but I did it. And it felt good to get out of my comfort zone and try something. But yeah, the relationships, met so many cool people.
That's awesome, man. You know, you as a guy, by the way, Mark is the executive producer of Family Guy, right? So somebody that is kind of like moved culture forward and is still worried to give a stage, you know, to give a speech on a stage, man. So that's so validating to the rest of us. Mark, what did you talk about, man? You want to share a little bit about what you shared on stage?
What did I talk? I basically told my story from, you know, growing up in Ohio and, you know, getting into being a greeting card writer, then working for Letterman and then Family Guy and creating shows. And, you know, some of the fun stories that we've done inside the writer's room at Family Guy, you know, just our experiences of trying to create that show and push boundaries. You know, it's you know, it's like what everyone at the conference was doing. You know, everybody's going for it in some way. And that's what we found on Family Guy. We were chugging along, getting no ratings for years. And, you know, what made the difference is we started going for it. You know, we started just pushing boundaries, breaking things, you know, coming at something from a different direction. And that's what made it exciting and fun. That's why I'm still on the show.
I love that, man. I love that. That is, you know, that goes right along with something we talk about a lot in category design, this idea that it's more advantageous to be different than better, right? Like you started just breaking boundaries, started doing different things, started really going for it, man. And that took off. And you also told me something that I had no idea, because I was in college when Family came out. I was the perfect demographic. And you're like, man, you guys saved us, because nobody was watching it on TV until DVD came out. And then DVD sales went through the roof. So they, you know, picked everything up. And that to me really highlights the power of content and the long tail effect of creating content and how that can like rescue you from a doldrum if somebody rescues it, man. I thought that was really insightful.
Yeah, amazing. 100%. That's the truth. College students and prisoners. That's what we, because those were the only two demographics that Nielsen ratings didn't track. So that's why Family Guy got brought back.
Amazing.
Amazing. I'll connect two dots here that was from the beginning, or somebody said earlier, and that Mark didn't say here, but I was blown away when I was talking to him about this, which is playing the long game. So there are not too many of us here on the call right now. For those of you who did not talk to Mark, how long from starting to work on an episode till it goes live of Family Guy? It was 14 months, right?
Right. Yeah.
14 months from working on an episode, it goes live. Now, what does this connect to? Of playing the long game, right? It's, if you want something to be unique, different, leading, extraordinary, non-standard, you can't rig it. Like, it just doesn't work. There is no, I mean, there is every now and then magic, but in most cases, you got to think long, you got to believe in what you do, and you got to go for it. And maybe it happened, maybe it won't, but if you won't, you will never know. So I was blown away in that conversation. By the way, I was also blown away with how humble Mark is, right? So like, yeah, I'm a writer. And I didn't say what. I'm like, oh, what'd you write? It's like, oh, Family Guy. I'm like, what? That Family Guy? It's like, yeah. So, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it took a lot of patience. It takes patience. It took me patience, even getting in the business. I thought, oh, put in a year, put in 2 years and I'll be ready. But no, it's a long game, definitely. Decades.
Love that. Thanks for coming today, man. It's great connecting with you.